day. So if you're unhappy with the cost of food now, be prepared. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Hi friends, welcome back to Eagle Lodge Farms. My name is Jessica.
And Jeff.
Today we are going to do a two-part video. We decided to split it up because otherwise this video would probably go on for maybe a couple days. Not really, but we probably could. If you were sitting here at our house, we probably would talk to you for a few days.
Our conversations internally went on and on and on and on. So we're trying to break it down into bite-sized pieces for you all.
So today we're going to talk about a problem or perceived problem.
Yeah.
We don't perceive it, we see it as a problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's real.
And then the next video is going to be how are we dealing with solving the problem.
Right.
And this problem for us probably started a lot more, our awareness became a few years ago, if you will, but it came into more society with the pandemic start. And that is the fall of systems. What we are dependent on every day, what we feel we are dependent on every day, and what we've contributed to food systems, energy, government, all these different things. And I think it's getting a hotter and hotter and hotter topic. And we just kind of wanted to address it as we've been becoming awake to some of these things and to share what we've experienced and maybe help you to not have fear, but to be able to take this kind of head on, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that we're not trying to push a panic button for anybody.
No, just the opposite, I think.
Right. In a perfect world, we're hopefully going to be able to present in the next video a solution-based situation that takes away that fear.
Because I think even in the homesteading community, we're having people warn people about things and stock up and do this and do that. And so I think there's such a fear factor in there and so many different levels.
There are, but it always really starts with step one, which is that awareness piece.
Yeah.
And I hate making assumptions, but in this particular case, I'm assuming there's two things going on in the world right now that virtually everybody's aware of. And number one is the Freedom Convoys, which of course started up in Canada, but is now migrating into the United States.
Tomorrow our big one starts in a big convoy from our area is going to Indianapolis, right. And so, and I know you guys are going to go actually see them off.
Yeah, I mean, we're supportive of the big picture of what they're trying
medical freedom
to get in, which is I mean, it's even beyond that. It's more about getting away from excessive government overreach.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
which is a whole nother conversation,
which we're not going to go into.
But there's the Freedom Convoy, and then of course there's what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and how these different things, even though they may not individually impact you in your day-to-day life, as you think, they will have a ripple effect.
And I think one of the things that when this all started, I know for myself, didn't realize what effect I had or what was going to affect me. And I think as a family, we've kind of started talking about, if you took and you built a web and you did this, you're in the center and you start going and you make a connection to all these things. How are you connected to the food web? How are you connected to the energy grid, and all the financial institutions and all these different things? And you look at it, this is an individual thing. It's not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out, where are you comfortable? If one of those systems got cut off, are you okay? Like, would you be okay? Could you handle it? And I think that was a wake-up call for us, and I know for myself. And so that's what I think for myself, what I'm hoping for you is that this will awaken you enough to sit down and have that look again, make that visual for yourself. And if there's an area where you aren't okay or you don't have enough information, you can research it yourself. And I guess that's the biggest thing. What works for us is not going to work for everybody. But part of what today's video is giving you some of the knowledge to fit into this web, if you will. And I think that's the biggest thing we wanted to talk about is how is this affecting you? And I think some people are going to be surprised about really the trickle down effect.
Oh yeah.
What all these things, and they kind of all encompass each other, if you will.
Well, and you talked about the spider web, and it's a great illustration because spider webs are so interconnected.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a silo of one thing here and a silo here. They are interconnected in so many different ways, and
I think so many people don't understand that they have control over some of those things, or you can make a difference, or you can make a change. If you're not okay with how one of those systems are acting,
right,
you can take it back into your own hands. It may be different, it may be scary, but there are other ways of finding out that information, such as different groups of people, which we'll talk about a little bit. But I think it's just that awareness, and so that you don't have to panic. And I would much rather people do it now than when it actually crashes, and so that you're aware.
Yeah, at that point, I don't want to say it's too late, but you've put yourself in a predicament that you're not going to be happy with. And
yeah, I think we're even thinking of some of the solutions we're trying. It made it, because we waited so long, it's making it difficult to not be able to get it right away.
Yes. Yeah. So let's dive into a couple of the things that are going on.
Well, let's talk about what made us really. Let's talk about the steps. I mean, obviously with the pandemic, that sent a big fear factor into everybody, and everybody was panic buying.
Yes.
And I think the toilet paper. I mean, people, if that's what's going to save your day, wow, good life.
But it's an illustration that I think everybody can resonate with. Even, whether or not you were the person that bought 4 cases of it, or you were just laughing at the people that were. Either way, you saw
without it.
You saw what took place when mass groups of individuals consumed or purchased limited inventory of things. And now imagine when it's something a little bit more serious, like food.
Well, and now we're starting to see that too. The shelves just aren't. I took the kids shopping the other day to get just a few items, and they're just blank shelves. And there's actual stickers now, because people, I think, just think, oh, they're just not stocking. There's actual signs up saying, "I'm sorry for this inconvenience. We aren't getting this back. We have no idea when this is coming back." And it's on like fruits and vegetables, but it's also on beans, it's on pasta, it's on all these things, because it's, like I said, it's interesting for me to walk down these aisles and see, wow, okay, it's getting kind of real. And we've talked, everywhere I go, I try to talk to people about that. Have you been in your stores? Is it like real? Because I'm trying to find out, like, is it just because we're a small community, or is it? And I talked with your parents the other day, and they are up in Minneapolis, and your mom was saying that in certain areas and certain stores, they saw a big impact, and some stores they didn't see any impact. So again, that's crazy.
We had talked about that before, about the large chains that have mega supply warehousing kind of infrastructure in place. They're going to be the ones that are going to be able to alleviate, maybe not alleviate, basically not have had that immediate impact, because they've already got inventory.
Which is actually the opposite. It was the opposite. No, it was actually the opposite. Your mom was saying Walmart was, and I know that for a factor on us, Walmart is not restocking. And so, your mom was saying Walmart, but actually your Kroger's, your smaller stores were doing better. And so I don't know, and I know a lot of those are trying to source a little bit more local. So maybe that's why we're seeing that. I'm not sure. But again, so stores weren't. But now you had a story. What happened yesterday?
So yesterday, our weekend is always busy, but yesterday we had hay delivered. So we have, as you know, we have a small farm, but we don't have a surplus of grass and or hay on our property. So we buy it and have it brought to our property. And I was having a conversation with a guy who cut it and brought it. And we all say we were bickering a little bit about gas prices and some of the different things that have shot up. And gas prices are basically doubled from what they were a year ago. And he was saying, you know what, but it's so much more than that. You know, fertilizer has doubled, if not more so, in price in the last year. And he was saying that he's had conversations with other farmers about how is this ultimately going to impact what they choose to plant this year? Is it going to be something that's not going to require lots of maintenance, meaning driving the tractor up and down their fields because gas prices?
Because again, if you don't know, I mean, again, I think most people are watching our channel or other homesteaders, but if you're not, hay, you can get up to 3 cuts. So that means you're going over that. You don't have to plant necessarily every year, but it's 3 cuts. And it's not just cutting it, but you're actually binding it up. So again, most people say, oh, hay would be the fastest because you don't have to. It actually isn't, because of the amount of it's actually the man work and the gas that goes into it is quite a bit. But now to plant corn, you're mostly just planting your corn, then you're harvesting the corn. I mean, there is more.
Somewhere
there is
between,
more
you're
to
probably
it.
Spraying it with some sort of chemical, unless you're an organic farmer. But actually, yes, the irony within all this and where it stemmed from is hay farming does require actually more gas consumption because of the amount of trips up and down the fields that they were doing. And he was saying that he knows specific farmers that are already planning on making a change of just planting corn or something different, as opposed to having to go and deal with the added fuel prices, which probably will continue to go up based on what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and that chain reaction of oil demand and things of that nature. So,
which for us, that means that our prices, well, one, there's going to be a supply and demand issue, which they already we've had such a hard time even in we live in a dairy state. I mean, you would think we would have a lot of this at our disposal. But to be the type of farmers we choose to be, it's actually a lot harder because a lot of the farming industry here does more the corn, the silage, and all those things. But because we are a grass-fed farm and we live in the winter, we really are dependent on these hay farmers.
Yeah, we have to.
And we pay through the nose for it. I mean, you were talking about like when we started to what it is now, the hay prices.
Hay prices today in 2022 is, I'm going to say at least double, and maybe even a little bit more than that than when we started 5 years ago.
So again, so we have to factor that price into our end product. And if gas prices are going up, that means our gas for our tractor to get the hay from one side to the other is in that. Most people aren't aware of the fact that we have butcher shortages right now. The butchers we don't have enough of those. And so there's that whole problem. Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is, part of the thing is most people don't understand. When they look at our prices, they're like, oh, you're just a farmer and you're overcharging. And they don't realize that what's happening in Ukraine and what's happening on these convoys and what's happening on all these things are so affecting just everyday people like us. Then we have to turn around and make our prices different. It's not because of our choice. It's because otherwise we can't even produce it. And this is where that regenerative farming is so important. The things that like Joel Salatin is doing, and Justin Rhodes, and Jessica from Roots to Refuge, and all these people that are trying to instill on these good farming where we can be more regenerative, where we don't have to bring in things to feed our animals, is so important. But again, we live in Wisconsin. We have to bring something in these winter times, and so. And if it wasn't that, then we'd have to import it over. I mean, and so people are just so disconnected from their food sources and understanding what's happening that they can't make the connection. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to show you the connection of something like that and how it really is affecting your food system.
And I think a lot of people are starting to see the end game, meaning the amount that they're spending at the grocery store, right? And I don't care if you're talking a pound of beef or a can of peas.
Well, what we've been saying, I mean, even our organic meat that because so far we hadn't raised our prices because we hadn't been feeling it horribly. So this year we kind of kept them the same. Right now, our organic grass-fed beef is sitting at the same price as your bottom of the barrel at the store almost. Like that's where That's what I'm saying. Target and Walmart, they're reaping theirs. They're taking their hit.
Yeah.
They're taking theirs and have raised that price even for your poorest quality meat is now at a local farmer standpoint almost the same price.
Right. And I think the trouble is, I think a lot of people look, oh, it's the inflation, that's the buzzword that people are talking about with these increased prices. But here's the
Follow the trail.
here's the reality that I think everybody needs to brace themselves for. A lot of people, and let's face it, everybody is complaining that there's added cost for the same amount of stuff, right? If $10 worth of potatoes 6 months ago is $10 worth of potatoes is now not the same amount, it's only going to get worse because the added fuel cost and all these added things that are coming in are going to go into what's being produced this upcoming season. So if you're accustomed to paying something today and are already complaining about the increased cost, it's going to get worse 6 months from now because now the farmer is paying, I'll say it differently. The potato that you bought last month was planted last spring. And so those costs of added fuel and fertilizer costs and all these different things that ultimately trickle into the end product, they weren't as bad as they are going to be this upcoming season. So it's coming full circle in a negative way. So if you're unhappy with the cost of food now, be prepared. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, and I think we have to stop the whole political bashing. At this point, it is what it is. President versus not president. We just need to start really evaluating everything. You need to start being aware. I say it on our Facebook page all the time, my Facebook page all the time. Get to know your local farmers. Mm-hmm. I know for ourselves, we don't actually grow our own potatoes because our property doesn't do well with that. So we've actually sourced right up a farm right up
a couple miles away.
Yeah, it's like a town or two away to get our potatoes. But I bought that right from the farmer. I didn't buy that from, Pick and Save or whatever they're called. I went right to the farmer. I got an amazing deal. Mm-hmm. Amazing deal. And to
fresh
the point to put right out of it, really fresh. And it wasn't being shipped from a different spot. I know right where those fields are. And I was able to hand that money right to the farmer, and I knew whose pocket it was going into. When you go to Target, Walmart, any of those stores, you are not handing it to the farmer. The farmer maybe gets a penny of that. I know it's more, but but that's the reality when you're buying from those. And I just wish people would get it. Really get it. There's so many other choices.
And they're probably going to have that rude awakening because we talked about the freedom convoys that are going on here in these coming days. There's nobody that is going to escape the impact of that, the inconveniences, shall we call it, of all these trucks coming off the road. You mentioned, the Walmarts and different stores not having things on the shelves, but that's a byproduct of a variety of things. But not having truckers continuously moving products is certainly going to expedite.
Well, I know
that
for ourselves,
problem.
we bought feed ahead of schedule just to make sure we were able to get it.
We took the mindset here recently to just get all of our ducks in a row to make sure anything that we were dependent on that we truly needed, we stocked up on. We got it in our possession before things would come up. But these systems that are in place right now, they were designed to be efficient, right? It's the bigger, better, faster, cheaper model that this country has been founded on. And when things are humming along and working smoothly, they're great. It allows for things to be produced faster, produced cheaper. That's what it's for. But one thing that these systems do not do well with is glitches, problems, inconsistencies. We saw it again if we go back in time with the meat plants being shut down for a week or two and what that did for animal costs, animal butchering. It just wrecked things. Well, magnify that or multiply that across 100 different industries, and it just causes bottlenecks where they don't need to be. It causes, look, you can't even buy a new car anymore because one stupid little chip isn't being produced someplace,
Well,
and it wrecks everything.
And we got dependent on other systems. We got dependent on other countries, or we got dependent on other things. And I think that's the big thing, is just is being able to look at all these systems. And again, you have to pick where you're comfortable. We are attached to the electrical grid. We are, and right now we have no foresee coming off of that.
No.
And that's one of those things that for us right at the moment we are okay with. Now you go down the food system, we have that one cut pretty. I guess the way I look at it is, when I'm in the middle and a system, I put the system way out here, and I try to figure out how close to the system I am, or how close am I to me. And I want to be as close to me as possible when it comes to the food system.
Meaning that you're in control.
I'm in control, or I'm producing. I physically am putting in the time, the effort into producing whatever that is. And so that's how I like to look at those things. And when I'm telling you to build a web, and we're all connected to them, unless you're living completely off grid. Some are goals. Wow.
Right.
Totally not there yet. But you have to be comfortable with how close you are. And if you're not, when you look at that and you say, oh my gosh, I'm like 100% dependent on that, and I'm not okay with it. Well, I want you now to start saying, how can I become less dependent? Or also, what happens if that got clipped off?
Yeah, the what if factor.
What if factor? What if the grid went down? Are you okay? And would you be able to maintain your own life? And it may look different, I think, and that's always, you're really going to have to, when you start doing that, you have to evaluate your wants and your needs, because that is the solution side, you're going to hear a lot about that. We're going to talk about that wants and that needs. But I guess for us, I can tell you, I've said the electrical grid we are very connected to. I mean, like I said, I have goals of getting less and less, and I would like to be, I think if the grid went down, we would be okay. It wouldn't be comfortable. It wouldn't be comfortable at all. The one that we are very much connected to is the medical. Unfortunately, we have to be a little bit more not controlled, but attached to that one. We've come a long ways to getting that closer to us, but because the two little boys are so medically fragile and dependent, we have to be a little more connected to that one. Again, we reevaluated it and started saying, is there some things that we could take back into our own hands? And there are, and we have made huge strides.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't until I saw that and I started questioning it. And I think that's the bigger thing. Realizing you are in control of your own life.
Yeah.
Like, doctors can say they need to see you every three times a year or whatever it is.
But
for what?
Do they really?
For what? Like, really, what for? And I know there's people that are going to say, oh, preventative. Well, what are you doing preventatively besides going to that appointment? Are you doing... So that's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Can you, instead of that preventative meetup, is there something else you could be doing? Food, exercise, all these things. And sometimes these are really hard looks. And this is a hard look at your life.
And I think we're going to have to come back and really maybe even pull out, like, you know, the spider web that we create that says, hey, here's a model of where we're connected, where we're doing well.
Because we're trying to be really transparent. I mean, there's some things obviously we're not going to want to share with you. But again, are you dependent on credit cards? Are you dependent? You're financial. Are you dependent on the banking system? What happens if they freeze your bank's accounts? Are you okay? And I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to think like this. Okay. Okay, then we're definitely not the people for you, and go living on your merry life, and that's fine.
But if any of these things have caused you to raise an eyebrow and have a little self-evaluation inside your brain,
again, that's I think why we wanted to put out there right away. This isn't a political back and forth. Do you believe this? Vaccinating? This isn't about that. This is about you and how you don't have to live in fear. If you have a map and you know how your goals are, it's less scary. Like, I can sit here right now and say I am so less afraid of anything bad happening to some of these systems that we are less attached to, and that feels really good.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things. It's a self-evaluation, understanding where your strengths and your weaknesses are. You know, where are you dependent and where are you independent?
So we just had this really big, epic thing happen in the world. Or I guess it probably wasn't just the world. I think it was probably just U.S. I'm gonna say that was this baby formula. Again, I'm not gonna get into breastfeeding versus formula, whatever. But what do you do? I had a poor panicked mom talking to me, and again, panicked in all the right reasons, but she didn't have a plan. If you're not able to get that formula, or that formula is recalled, what do you do? A baby has to live. A baby has to have another resource. What are you going to do? And that's what we're saying you need to think about. When you become dependent on somebody else giving you something, even if it's a small farmer, even if it's whatever, what happens if something happens to them? What do you do? And I think if you have some of those plans in place and you're not just living this oblivious world, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
It may not be what you're accustomed to,
No.
and it may be uncomfortable for a while, but I think you'll find you're okay. And in some cases, you're going to be pretty happy.
And so this hopefully will get your mind turning. And I guess that's really what we wanted to get this message
Because I
across.
think we wish somebody would have woke us up a little bit. We always had that little bit of, we had that spark, and it just took a while for somebody to really ignite it.
Yes.
And just one of the things that I challenge you, if you are going, wow, this is really cool, something to look into is, do you have a local Freedom Cell group? Freedomcell.org, you can find if you have one. It is a great group of people that are trying to find solutions. When all the crap happens, if it happens, are you prepared, and how will you be prepared? And there are some extremists in this group, and some of them I go, whoa, wow.
But those are some
But
of the best people to get actual education.
It is. They have pushed us. I love it when I do that, but I can't. I'm hooked to this, and they look at me, but are you? I love that challenge, and for me, that challenge is like a game of life for me, and part of it was I was mad too, going, I lived this world of doing it because my parents did it, or doing it because that's what's normal,
Yeah.
and society says I have to, realizing, that's what they want you to think. And so stretching yourself a little bit. I think that's what I really want. So freedomcell.org would be a good one. There's like-minded groups out there. You just need to start researching and trying to find people to help support you, because for a while you're going to feel really, if you really take this and move yourself into this kind of thinking and wanting to take a stance, and getting involved in your local government is huge too. But you're going to feel kind of alone for a while, because you are stepping outside the normal box. And for some people, for us, we challenge it, we love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for some, it's very uncomfortable. So finding other people that are like-minded, it does help, and help stretches you a little bit.
It does. And like a lot of people hopefully seeing this, we just a handful of years ago were stuck in suburbia of a big city, had no animals, no gardens, no self-direction in terms of anything. And in a matter of just a short amount of time, we have completely gone 180, have become completely self-reliant in certain areas. We're not flawless by any stretch of the imagination, but the blinders have come off. We've realized what we need to do to prepare for ourselves. And the lifestyle has been beyond rewarding. And
Yes. I think at the end of the day, you start to go, what did I do before this? Like, what did I do with my time before this? And it's so fulfilling. And to be dependent on yourself and God and your family is so rewarding. And you don't have to ask yourself, where do I fit in? What's my purpose? Because you will find your purpose in making sure those animals are fed. And again, our solutions are not going to be for everybody, but that's part of what we're trying to push you. Even if you're in the city, what steps can you be taking? Because there are a lot. So I think in the end, we just really want to challenge you. Don't fear this. Be prepared. Get your head out of the sand. And don't think people just have the worst intentions. That's not what we're asking you to do either. Have some faith in God and have some faith in yourself and take some of this back. Get away from your cell phone, get away from the television, even though that's where you're going to get some information.
Yeah, but
saying.
unplug from Netflix.
Unplug from that. Pull up some YouTube videos on canning and pull up some of our YouTube videos. Hit subscribe and like. But no, really, just living in fear is no way to live. Have some freedom and exercise your freedom. Support your freedoms. Support some local farmers. No matter where you are, you can make a difference, and you can make a difference in your own life. You can cut yourself from some of these systems or get less dependent on some of these systems. And so I'm challenging, and we're hopefully inspiring you to take some of those steps. The next series of videos, I think it's going to end up being a series probably of a few videos, is how are we solving that problem? Right. I think we can break it down into systems if we wanted to, and really look at what are we doing. Again, please don't think you need to mimic what we do, but we're just hoping giving you some ideas as to what maybe one thing will work for you, and that's the one thing you do. Awesome. That is awesome. And just feel that, because then let that little fire just take off. And we've said in the past that we used to always have the spark. It's always been there. It really is. I mean, you're an entrepreneur by heart, and I am a DIY big time, do it yourself. I am. And so we've just now had it ignite.
Yeah, we've had the drive, the vision, and now we're getting a bit more of the education. And I think that's really, again, at the heart of what we're trying to do within this channel, these videos, is realize that you don't have to have, it's not a prerequisite to be living on a farm or in the country or through a homesteading lifestyle. You can pick up and you can go and you can get on track to being better prepared, to be able to provide for your family, and that's really what we're hoping to inspire in others.
Yeah, it's just no way to live in fear. It just isn't, and the Lord tells us not to. And so I think He's got the right track. So I think it's time for us to just get on that track, and we hope that you can join us. So with all this being said, we hope that the Lord blesses your day or evening, whichever one you're watching this, and you spend some time with your family and unplug. God bless.
Bye now.